It's Thanksgiving 1998, and we have the 10-1 Minnesota Vikings taking on the 8-3 Dallas Cowboys. Just based on the records alone, this was supposed to be one of the best Thanksgiving Day games in NFL history, and it turns out it would live up to that. But there was a whole lot more beneath the surface. You see, this was not only just a Thanksgiving Day game, but also a revenge game for one of the greatest receivers in NFL history. What you may not know is that this game was the culmination of a story and emotions that were brewing since way back in high school. Randy Moss was born and bred to become a professional athlete. Born and raised in the small, unincorporated town of Rand, West Virginia, Randy Moss excelled in every sport imaginable.
With Moss.
But football is where he really shined, as he attracted offers from a lot of the top schools in the country. After shattering so many records at DuPont High School, he opted to go to Notre Dame to play college football. If only it were that easy. You see, at DuPont High School, Randy Moss had to deal with a ton of racism. With the school being only 2% black, there was a clear racial divide every single day. And just before graduating, Randy Moss would find himself in the middle of this racial fight. He ended up getting involved in a racially charged fight after one of his friends told him, "Hey, watch my back," after going after one of the white students who carved racial slurs into his desk. Randy Moss claimed he only stomped him on the neck 2 times in the fight. That was his only involvement. Unfortunately, since he had the big name, he was being charged with the whole fight. After that, he ended up losing his scholarship to Notre Dame. But with the help of head coach Lou Holtz, he ended up talking to the head coach of Florida State, Bobby Bowden, who was able to give Randy Moss another chance. Moss ended up getting the probation and ended up going to Florida State after graduating high school. Part of the deal was he would have to redshirt his first season, and he opted to do so. Consistently in practice, he torched the top defensive backs in the country. He even ran the second fastest 40 time in school history behind Hall of Famer Deion Sanders. But just before he was set to play his first game at Florida State in 1996, Randy Moss tested positive for marijuana back in West Virginia, not only violating his probation, but he would be kicked off of Florida State's football team, losing his second Division I scholarship in a year. It seemed like the football career of Randy Moss was about to be over before it even started, but then something happened. The people of Rand, West Virginia rallied around him, hoping he would get another chance. Many showed up to the courthouse in support of Moss. There were even protests taken to the streets. The support helped a ton. Randy Moss only got 60 days in jail and could have gotten up to a year. After serving his time, Moss signed his letter of intent to play football at Marshall University in West Virginia. So Moss took an unconventional path to becoming a top college player, dropping down an entire level of college football to an FCS school at the time just to prove himself and get back on the right track of sports and in life. Not only would he play close to home, but with its D1 AA status it had at the time, it meant that he could immediately be eligible to play without waiting another year. Once he got to Marshall, Moss completely torched the competition, putting up one of the greatest careers in college football history. In 28 college football games, Moss put up 174 catches, totaling just a little over 3,500 yards, along with 54 touchdowns. Not only were these numbers video game-like, but they were good enough to make him a Heisman Trophy finalist in 1997. He may not have won the Heisman, but he walked away with the Biletnikoff and Warfield Awards. But all of this was almost taken away in 1996 when Randy Moss's ex-girlfriend pressed charges for domestic battery, Ultimately, they were dropped. With all of his accomplishments, you'd think he'd be one of the top selections in the 1998 NFL Draft, and he was without question the best player on the board. But with all of his past troubles, he was a risk to some teams. One of those being the Dallas Cowboys, who told Randy Moss a totally different story. They invited Randy Moss to Valley Ranch for a pre-draft visit, which included a detour to Deion Sanders' house. All indications were pointing to Randy Moss becoming a Dallas Cowboy. Can you imagine him, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin on the other side of receiver?
I see all these guys that I grew up before I got to the league just watching like, man, that's the Dallas Cowboys with that star on the side of their head.
Sounds like a match made in heaven. It also sounds like it's too good to be true.
Oh, Linda, I just got off the phone with the Cowboys war room, and they're going to go cold feet like a number of teams are with the Randy Moss, and I doubt seriously how much they really consider drafting Randy Moss at the 8th pick.
With the 8th pick in the draft, the Dallas Cowboys select defensive end from North Carolina, Greg Ellis.
Now, to Greg Ellis's credit, he ended up having a solid career in the National Football League. But let's be honest, he's not Randy Moss. Not only was Randy Moss absolutely crushed, but even his mom, who cared nothing about sports, was hurt. Randy wanted to be a Cowboy, and getting that wish would have made his path back into pro football after years of trying to get his life back on track all the more rewarding. But no, they went another way, and the fairy tale ending to his redemption was taken away. After that, teams kept on passing him to the point where he wasn't even the first receiver taken off the board. Even though he's falling in the draft, he did have some earlier assurances from head coach Dennis Green of the Minnesota Vikings, who said that if he was available with the 21st pick, they would select him, and Randy Moss was adamant that he was not going to last that long. And finally, with the 21st pick,
the Minnesota Vikings have selected wide receiver from Marshall University, Randy Moss.
We finally arrived back to Thanksgiving Day 1998, and Randy Moss was ready to torch the Dallas Cowboys. And on the opening drive, he would do just that.
And he is throwing it back to Cunningham, the old flea picker, and open is Randy Moss, and in the end zone is a Minnesota touchdown.
What we playing today, you ain't got to worry about us. No, don't you worry about us.
The Vikings had a special play for the Dallas Cowboys that week. On the opening drive, they were going to run a flea flicker play, and Dennis Green instructed Randy Moss not to run his full speed because he was afraid Moss would outrun the throw. Moss ended up not listening, and the play resulted in a 51-yard touchdown on his very first catch.
Anytime I score a touchdown, I might have a beat in my head, just boom, 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 boom. And I did something and just spiked the ball.
Fast forward to the third drive of the game, and the score was already 14-6. Moss proceeds to catch another long 50-plus yard bomb for a score, 54 yards to be exact. This was still Moss as a rookie. There were probably still a handful of people watching this game at their family Thanksgiving dinners totally unaware of who Randy Moss was. Well, they're finding out now, and they only know half of how sweet this feels for Moss to crush the Dallas Cowboys. Not only was he beating the team that passed him over and broke his mother's heart, he was doing so in front of millions of people on one of the biggest TV football games of the year.
Just throw it as far as you can.
This guy is amazing. Randy Moss is amazing.
But inside of me, man, it was the 4th of July. Because I'm sitting there like, yeah, we are kicking Dallas's ass.
It's only the first quarter, and Moss has scored two 50-plus yard touchdowns. But 2 touchdowns wouldn't be enough. Fast forward towards the end of the third quarter. The Vikings are now up 32-22 in a high-scoring Thanksgiving game. Randall Cunningham threw a small pass to Randy Moss, who then fakes out the defender and runs 56 yards on his third catch of the day for his third touchdown. Randy Moss, you are ridiculous. 3 catches for 163 yards and 3 touchdowns, ending in a 46-36 victory for the Vikings. After the game, the Fox Sports producers told Randy Moss to join them for the post-game interviews, as well as to grab the famous John Madden turkey leg.
Yeah, Randy.
Who is this, Mr. Madden?
Yeah, this is John Madden.
How you doing?
You know anything about this turkey leg award? You just won it.
And Randy Moss's response was, "Man, I'm tired. I just want to go home."
I said, man, I don't want no chicken leg. Man, I'm ready to go home.
Randy Moss's revenge game against the Dallas Cowboys remains one of the greatest Thanksgiving Day game performances in NFL history. The funny thing is, the record was also set for the most passing yards in a Thanksgiving Day game by Troy Aikman on that day with 455 yards, but nobody remembers that. Jerry Jones admitted years later that he should have drafted Randy Moss and even apologized to him. Randy Moss would accept that apology, and not too long after that was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In a rookie season where he set the rookie receiving touchdown record and finished third in MVP voting, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who doesn't view this game as the standout performance. He went on to torch the league for decades. His last name has now been turned into a verb. And on Thanksgiving Day 1998, the Dallas Cowboys were mossed multiple times.
Hi, Mom. Happy Thanksgiving.